for us right now is that new media is not yet free, diba? And our traditional media are free, TV and radio are free. My first question is, do you see connectivity to become, in the future, free? Because that really, to us, is a threat that we might face. No? So that's one. And related to that, of course, big networks such as ABS-CBN are already getting their programs into the new media devices, and I think that's a smart way of, in fact, anticipating what might be in the future for all of us, especially for the smaller operators. What do you think? How important is it for us to have presence in the internet?
Well, I think you're right. No? I think traditionally kasi yung consumer online content, they will pay for access but they won't pay for content. That's the world as it is today. Of course, we're trying to change it. No? But just to give you anecdotal information, sa Japan, everybody watches TFC. If you talk to 10 Filipinos, they all know what's going on. They all watch TFC. But only 2 of them pay. So 8 of them are watching pirated shows. So that's the reality that we face. So it's a serious problem, and we have to think about how to manage our content in a way that we can monetize the content that we put on the digital world. But wala pa kaming sagot.
Yeah, Manny, can you add something?
I'm not a telco person, no? But siguro what addressing Mr. Nicdao's question, what struck me was the chairman of PLDT made a statement a few months back. He said the telco model is dead. He said they're struggling right now because they're charging access. They're saying that they're also trying to re-engineer themselves, that they put content as priority. So it seems like they're also changing the model na you have to pay for content and then the access is secondary na lang. In what form that would happen, I won't know. I'm not with the telco, but there's been a lot of attempts really globally of trying to make internet free, but it's a telco business traditionally, so even the telcos need to evolve as well.
Manny, just to follow up on the question of Julie, how important is it for radio, for example, to be present on the internet?
I think very. Internet is a multimedia environment, right? So it can't be you read something. There's certain people who would continue getting information on a more engaging manner. Of course, the most engaging right now is video, which is TV, because you see visuals there. But radio is very important. I mean, if you look at podcast, which is closely associated to the format of radio, it's taking. I think when iPod came, it was too early. But look at what's happening right now. Just go to a lot of sites. They're offering now audio streaming, audio downloads, and I'd like to use this as an example. No, if everyone familiar with Mo Twister, right? He created his own podcast before, and I was blown away, under the radar. And then when I took the statistics, his unadulterated podcast was being downloaded 1 million per week. He became #1 in the Philippines, in Singapore. He was #10 in the US, and he just used a podcast. So the audio format is very, very much relevant on the digital space.
Thank you. And yes, Bobby?
I'd just like to pose a question for Sir Gabby. How true is it that ABS-CBN is tying up with Globe? And if it's true, in what form? Is it going to be outright acquisition? Is it going to be a merger? Or what?
Ako lang media dito. that was asked of me yesterday. Sabi ko lang sa kanila na, we're talking to everyone in the industry, including Smart. Today, there's nothing that I can say that has been concretely decided between Globe and ourselves. But we talk to everyone, even Smart. We talk to Smart.
Sayang, I always saw several ready to send their instructions to their brokers. June.
I have another question for Manny. We've talked a lot about social networking sites, and of course the most popular of this is Facebook. It's just a puzzle to a lot of people that Facebook being the most visited site. In fact, I saw that in one of the TV shows. The most visited site is not Google, or it's now Facebook, right? But it's kind of an enigma because when Facebook went public, it didn't sell. In fact, I think it's down in market price. So it seems that the business model of Facebook seems not to be working. In fact, the biggest question that I see now in a lot of news items is, does social media really sell? Because it's a threat to us. But apparently, the market is not buying it because they're not supporting the stock price, and it seems that it's not moving products. Can you give us a comment on this?
On a personal opinion, I think the challenge on digital kasi is the measurement of digital has always been compared to traditional media. So the expectation, reach, everything, right? But digital media has to be more hardworking. How to measure digital will also have a totally different consideration on its effectivity. Again, like what I mentioned earlier, the digital media is interactive. So if you want to measure your success in terms of engagement, that's a term, right? It's a more important term actually for digital. It's not really reach, but more engagement. It's still being measured kasi in terms of, okay, I'd rather put a TV spot because the reach is this much compared to I put dollars and pennies in Facebook, but my engagement is only this small. I think one of the difficulties, not only here in the Philippines, but globally, is there has to be a common metric that will set aside the effectivity of digital. Facebook, when it was designed to be a social media platform. So how do you insert now ads seamlessly, making it come out that it's non-intrusive? So they're also in a period of discovery right now. But one thing is for sure, reach in the online media is very fast. So for a marketer's point of view, if you're gonna have the same mindset of investing on awareness using radio or TV and using the same principle on digital, then you're making the wrong investment. It has to be something in terms of your expectation. You're trying to measure something more in a more defined manner. So hindi na pwede yung the usual discussions na ilan ba yung page views mo, ilan ba yung unique visitors mo. That shouldn't be the basis anymore. I would say that's the old school digital advertising placement. Right now it's really how much time have they seen my ad, or did they click, or whatever. So the considerations are really totally different.
So it's really a question of how to monetize it also.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good morning. Some local government units are now offering free Wi-Fi, like making their cities a Wi-Fi city. What would be the biggest effect of this on the broadcast industry?
Do you see an impact of free access services to broadcast industry?
Well, I guess if the infrastructure is there, then it means you should embrace it, because at least you don't have to worry about having to charge the community to get online. So I think if local governments are doing that, I think that's very good for the consumers. So you should see it as an opportunity now to have an execution which is targeted to that LGU. So for example, if you're radio, then you might want to consider getting a localized content for that territory. Kasi if you're just going to do something which is very generic, they can always go to TV, they can always read the newspaper. But for that kind of opportunity, since you know it's a contained geographic, then you adjust also by offering them engaging content on that geographic context.
Okay, I've been asked to get some last two questions. Pero by the way, just adding to that, when you there was a study about the why in the Philippines SMS and even Facebook is very important. It reaches that kind of patronage, and the answer is very simple. Totoo ito, we about 12 years ago, when I was in the telco, we were studying why SMS was getting that much usage. And the answer is ang mga Pilipino socially aware. In short, chismosa. Totoo yan. Any questions yet? Last